already with the lighting, and I hate it. But yeah, it's been a while since I've done one of these, and I got some notes. They're just bullet points. We're gonna kind of go off the rip. I got myself a little snacky. Ooh, Beyblade, let her rip. Ah. Okay, something's wrong in the world. And we all know it. We can all see it, and we all have our different ideas and our theories and whatever, but at the end of the day, even though we disagree on the specifics, even though when we come to certain conclusions, other people might think that we're insane, we can all agree. Something's wrong in the world. Very wrong. For anyone that's been following me for a very long time, small circle of people, you're the real OGs. Hell yeah. You all know that I have been skeptical of the world around me, and I've always tried to ground myself within logic, reason, evidence, etc. But 2025 has been one hell of a year. Been very eye-opening, and the long story short of it is I am far more skeptical of not only my government, but also reality as a whole because of it. Just because nothing is making any sense whatsoever. Maybe if you just sit and read like headlines all day and watch mainstream media, or simp for whatever billionaire corporation has like shoot in a honeypot for what is supposed to look like organic influence or social media, but in fact it's all a bought and paid narrative. Yeah, sure, if you're someone along the lines of those, everything just looks chaotic, but everything's fine. But for the rest of us that are, for the lack of a better term, awake, oh man, like, what? I can already say that I'm all over the place on this. So let's go back to the bullet point, shall we? We are facing a very interesting time in history. And that's not to say, like, oh, everyone feels that they're part of an important era. No, like, this is different, okay? This is different in the sense that it's more of the same. You see, there's something called anicyclosis.
Welcome, moon and star, to this place where destiny is made, or perhaps where it is unmade and remade again and again. Come, Nerevar, do not be afraid. I have summoned you here not as an enemy, but as a student, my friend, for you have forgotten the shape of the world. You walk in the skin of a hero, believing your actions are your own, that your choices will forge a new age. What a grand and intoxicating innocence. You believe you are ending a blight, but you are merely playing a part in a great and unending cycle. The same one that consumed the Dwemer, that elevated the tribunal, and that rots the heart of the empire you so naively serve. An imperial proconsul once tried to negotiate with me, He brought treaties, maps, and trade proposals. I had him thrown into the crater. He did not understand that you do not offer a god a tax plan. The sheer audacity is almost charming. It is a rhythm, a pattern woven into the very fabric of time, for mortals and for gods. It is called anicyclosis, but it is a truth beyond the grasp of lesser beings. Trying to explain the rhythm of history to a Khajiit is a fool's errand. This one thinks a monarchy is whoever holds the shiniest ball of yarn. This one believes democracy is just a louder way to ask for more moon sugar. It is like trying to teach a cliff racer philosophy. Amusing, but ultimately pointless. And the Argonians, one cannot fault a tool for its lack of ambition. Does a hoe concern itself with the politics of the harvest? No. It does its work until it breaks. The lizards of Black Marsh are much the same, only they are far more easily distracted by shiny baubles and tales of lusty maids. So you must listen, observe. Every society begins with a single strong leader, a monarchy. Think of the early days of the Septim Empire, when Tiber forged a continent into one body, guided by a singular, powerful vision. Your modern world has them too. The visionary founders of nations or corporations, leaders bound by a sense of duty and honor, but a monarch's bloodline weakens, his vision fades, and what follows is the shadow of the king, the tyrant, a ruler who acts only for himself, who rejects all accountability. Think of the mad Emperor Pelagius, or your own modern dictators, ruling by whim and paranoia, their nations crumbling under the weight of their ego. From the ashes of that tyranny, a virtuous few will rise to restore order, an aristocracy, the best and brightest ruling together. Does that not sound familiar, Nerevar? The great houses of Morrowind in their prime. Or we three, you and I and Vivek, ruling with the wisdom of gods. In your world, it is the council of esteemed experts, the founders of a republic, the wise senators. But this too decays. Their shared honor curdles into collusion. Virtue becomes a password for a private club. This noble council becomes an oligarchy, a self-serving cartel of elites who dismantle any accountability to the outside world. The great houses today, squabbling over land and influence while my blight consumes their people. Your own world is rife with them, billionaires and politicians who dine together in private, redrawing the world's maps for their own profit, while preaching public service. Shame on you if you cannot see it. When the people can no longer bear the greed of the few, they rise up and demand their own power. Democracy, rule by the many. A noble ideal, is it not? I have observed the Cyrodiilic notion of democracy. It appears to be a contest to see who can promise the most things they have no intention of delivering, cheered on by a populace too busy consuming skooma to notice the treasury is empty. They are not governing. They are hosting a very sad, very long party before the inevitable crash. And what happens when every voice is screaming? When reason is drowned out by passion, this rule of the people degenerates into ochlocracy, mob rule. There is no law, no accountability, only the chaotic, impulsive whim of the crowd. You see it in the lynch mobs of Skyrim's civil war, and you see it every day in your world, on your glowing screens, where anonymous mobs pass judgment in an instant, tearing down reputations and lives with no trial but their own fleeting rage. This chaos, this systemic failure, inevitably leads to collapse. Society breaks down completely. And in that desperate vacuum, the people will cry out for a strong hand to restore order. They will beg for a king. And so a new monarch is born, and the cycle begins anew. Do you see it now, sweet Nerevar, the wheel you are bound to? You are not a hero come to save Morrowind. You are merely the agent of the cycle, the storm that will tear down the old, rotten structure of the tribunal to make way for the new. But what if the cycle could be broken? What if a new kind of power could be established? One that does not decay, one that is eternal. This is the destiny I offer you. Lay down your weapon, my old friend. It is not too late for my mercy. I am a god. How can you kill a god? Join me, and together we can ascend. We can stop the wheel from turning, forever. Come, a new world is waiting.
It's this rise and fall of governments, this rhythm of cycles, if you will, about how people in positions of power eventually abuse that power. And that same semblance of power is then passed on in a new form. And typically, the bad actors, the ones that have caused the strife in the first place, abuse their power for greed, their lust for corruption and taking advantage of the world, they eventually fall or escape off to repeat the cycle yet again. And that's essentially where we are at. We are at a interesting tipping point in the anicyclosis cycles of the rise and fall of empires, where the American empire is feeling its last days. Before I carry on with that, just know we're going to be fine. Yeah, things are going to get very bad, but it's going to work itself out. Because within just the framework of anicyclosis, when an empire falls, smaller nations are built up from the ashes. It gets a little more complicated the more you look into it, which is why it's a rhythm of cycles. It's not identically that history is necessarily repeating itself, but the big major points, the ones that actually truly matter, that kind of shift the entire masses of the world in a particular direction, those kind of stay the same. But the devil's in the details, and the details are what we always want to argue with one another, ignoring the bigger picture, the larger pattern at play. That's something that we can all look back in history and agree upon. Like, yeah, it looks like we're hitting those stages right now. Look at the fall of the Soviet Union. Before it fell, well, what happened? Well, you had all the people in positions of power that saw the fall coming, and you had all the oligarchs that were part of the machine of greed within that nation to propel its further demise. They were raiding the coffers. They were taking any opportunity that they could to capitalize before the fall. And that's what we've been seeing all year. I mean, you could even stretch this out, because I don't want to just say like, oh, well, this is like an anti-Republican thing. No. This has kind of been a thing that's been in the works for a long time. I mean, if you take a look at private equity and how it's just been swallowing everything up, and everything that it touches turns to shit. Turns to poo-poo. It's not good. It's not good at all. Because, like, let's face it, these companies, corporations, anything that, has to deal with buying and selling, and institutions and organizations, at the end of the day, they got people that they got to take care of. Shareholders. So, what matters to shareholders the most? Well, it's not the context. It's all about profit in the here and the now. They're not so much looking towards the end all be all. They're looking for the right here, right now. How can we get little number to go up big super quickly? And how can we capitalize off of that? It's just greed. That's it. And private equity is a large part of what has been screwing this country into the ground for a very long time. Look back at the housing crisis. Look back at the dot-com bubble. Okay, these are all things within my lifetime that are very indicative of financial institutions running amok and basically just destroying any opportunity for the normal man. So what makes 2025 different? What makes it different than before if these things have been going on continuously, regardless of whichever administrator is in charge? Well, I mean, like I said, it's very different if you're someone that pays attention to everything but doesn't connect the dots. Because if you're paying attention, it's right versus left. And then we, gotta find some way to come together in the middle. Oh, that's cute. That's rich. When in reality, the right, left, the middle, it's all a sham. They're all a part of the same club. They're playing the same game. They're looking at us in the eyes and telling us that, oh, the other side's the one that's destroying everything, ignoring the fact of, what's going on with them and how they're the ones contributing to all the downfall of everything. But then, behind closed doors, through cameras that are obscured from their immediate vision, we see snippets of them hanging out, being all buddy-buddy, being friendly. And then we have this I mean, that's just with the politics. Let's not even talk about, let's go into the corporate stuff. We saw at the beginning of the year, like the tech oligarchs were bowing down before Trump, right? As Doge came in to cut a lot of waste out of the government, which I, as rough as it is to say, can agree with the sentiment. There is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse within our government. I mean, for just to throw out my own opinion, not that it matters. Yeah, getting rid of all those NGOs and, all of that foreign aid. I'm sorry, man. We're not in a position as a nation to do that. It's best that we just, help other nations. But a lot of these nations that we're quote unquote helping, we are the reason why they're in that position in the first place. We destabilized other nations. We took advantage, like all that colonialism shit. We had coups. We put people that we wanted in charge. Those people that were greedy and corrupt, that ran their own countries into the ground. There's a reason why all these countries are, for lack of a better term, from the American perspective, the American elitist perspective, dog shit. Not like us. Not as abundant and wealthy as us. Are we? No. Not all of us. A good portion of us are. I'm not going to sit here and deny reality. I live a very comfortable life. And when I say that, I don't mean I live in the Ritz. No. I am relatively content because I have my needs met, I have few wants, and of course I have a lot of likes. There's a lot of things in life I would like to have, but there's few things that I want to have, mainly because my baser needs are met. And because my baser needs are met, I don't feel this urge to want more. It's a mindset thing. Because there was a time when I would want, and that would fuel all my endeavors in life, and it eventually got me nowhere. Changing the perspective, changing the mindset of acknowledging that these are things I would like to have, but I don't need to go out of my way for them. I need to focus on the needs and the things I would want for my immediate life to improve on a day-to-day, not just like the immediate thing. I'm getting distracted, sidetracked. Sorry. It's a crazy sensation that feels like 2025 is, wait, what month are we in? I can't even remember. October. Yeah, it's October. Early October. What day is today? The time is set on my watch, but definitely not the date. Look, it doesn't matter. It's amazing how 10 months into 2025, and it feels like a decade has gone by. It's like so much has happened all at once. For the last couple weeks, I've kind of been detoxed to it. You know, for a long time, I saw at the beginning of the year, like, I was very uncomfortable with a lot of different things that had happened. You had the Biden administration going out, the Trump administration coming in, and within the background of all this were two very important key players for things that would end up coming on down the road. And that is the whole Luigi Mangione United Healthcare event and Epstein. That doesn't feel like it's going to go away anytime soon. So while all the tech bro oligarchs were bowing down before their new fucking king, the media was still trying to backtrack and, you know, not make as much of a big deal about the Luigi thing, even though they kept plastering it all in our faces. And it kept seen as a far bigger situation than what it, you know, really was for all of us. And, you know, everyone's talking about Epstein still. Because we know the truth. Epstein didn't kill himself. I'd argue, and this is the disclaimer, he's not dead. Not even a little bit. Now, this is the big disclaimer. I probably should have put this in the beginning, but we're getting to it now. It's encompassing for the whole thing. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm just a normal person like you and you and the other people watching. Most of you are just bots. Hashtag dead internet theory. Let's go. I have little to no accreditations other than the fact that we live in the same reality, and I can agree that shit just doesn't add up. So if you're looking for an in-depth video essay to kind of chronicle a particular bias that you have with supporting facts, evidence, etc., blah, 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 blah. This video is more candid. It's more of a rant than like a theological deep dive into the absurdities of reality and the actual structured logical truth based upon the narrative that we've all been given. No, go watch Jacob Geller or some other person that does that actually wonderful deep dive information. I'm just here to talk person to person because it's exhausting. It really is. And I found the most amazing solution to it. And it's, you know, in the last couple weeks, it's helped a lot. I've kind of gotten rid of a lot of the doom scrolly social media stuff. So I'm not essentially being fed this algorithm slop based upon things that a really poorly designed AI barely even knows about me, but it wants to keep my attention. So it's not giving me content based upon things I'm actually truly hungry for. Knowledge, information, etc. All these algorithms are predicated upon engagement and watch time. And what engaging factor comes out the most, and that is the negative ones. Fear, loneliness, depression, anxiety, blah, 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 blah. All of the negative stuff is what the algorithms push. Now, if you can keep yourself level-headed and don't ever go off to those dark parts of the internet that, you know, make you want to have a tinfoil hat, yeah, I guess you'll be fine, and you'll constantly be fed the dopamine stuff that makes you feel happy and feel like you're learning something. And that's a good, better comparative algorithm to fall into. But yeah, you fell into another trap because you're still there doom scrolling. You're chasing the high of whatever false dopamine. Go out and touch grass, my friend. You know, so looking at these historical patterns, seeing how everything's kind of lining up today, you can't help but like raise a few eyebrows like, what? Really? You sure about that? I don't know, man. So what really kind of opened my eyes to realize how BS the world is? Let me tell you who this is coming from. This is coming from someone that simped for capitalism and drank the pudding of American exceptionalism my entire life. Considering that Manifest Destiny should have never stopped coast to coast, and that because of American exceptionalism and we are badass and awesome, that we should spread our glory to the world and have everyone bow before us. Not because of benevolence, but mainly just for subjugation. Wow, it got dark. But yeah, that was me for a really long part of my life. I drank the Kool-Aid and I was everything that the establishment wanted. You know, a good old boy that'll do as they're told and, kick on with the program that they set before us. I joined the military because, you know, I didn't really have too many options at the end of high school. Once again, it's exactly the kind of people that they're looking for, hence why we have such a horrible, horrendous, toxic leadership in the military. Not everybody is like that in a leadership role, but the vast majority are, because they're all it's too bureaucratic. They're all looking out for their own self-interest and how they're going to benefit from whatever, as opposed to actually doing anything right for the organization that they're a part of. It's systemic from the top down. You wonder why a lot of vets leave the military and they get out into the civilian world and they're like, man, this sucks. So why don't you go back to the military? Absolutely not. Are you kidding me? I'd rather gonna be out here doing, whatever, than going back to that noise. And it's, one way to put it is trauma. It's being in the military in and of itself is traumatic. And that's before you even have to deploy, shooting at people that otherwise, if you were educated enough and knew the truth about why we're over in these places in the first place, you would want nothing to do with it. But I was a part of the No Child Left Behind generation, and we were all prepped for war once the whole 9/11 thing happened. Oh my God. So seeing all these billionaires bow down before the establishment, I could see which way the wind is blowing. This is what the establishment's going to do. It doesn't matter if it's right, doesn't matter if it's left. The current structures of power that we have in America, henceforth the world, really, it's all a fugazi. It's all BS. It's all fake. It's all phony. Don't take that too literal. That's another problem when people look at these conspiracy theory things. We are all trying to share what little information that we have, and we only have our own repartee of our own language to convey that. So in order to convey meaning, we use words that make sense to us, and we try to explain concepts in a way that we could understand. And what we need to do with these things is we need to meet people where they're at. We need to find the commonality. We need to see what is the real problem and then connect the dots from there. I fell into that. Once because I've never been too much of a tinfoil hat guy, but after a while, you notice certain patterns. You notice certain behaviors. You notice certain repeats of history, as it were. And then the great noticing happens. Pretty sure we all know what that is. So where did this all come from for me? If I was this person that simped for capitalism and simped for all like the things that my government wanted me to, why have I become such a 180? Which I'm not. I still like to consider myself, if I were to put myself on a political spectrum, I am socially liberal, well, economically conservative. Hence why we have so much division today, because I think a lot of people can agree with that. But in practice, it's really hard to implement. And that's not to say like it's impossible. It's because of the people in power make it so. They want us to kind of have this mindset where it's a little on this side, but not entirely. We got to lean one way or the other, and they want us to be divided no matter what. No matter what. What's your political affiliation? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? Like, just pick any topic and its opposite, and they strive to keep us at odds with one another. So part of my research of antipsychosis and rise and falls of empires, I noticed something. When these great nations fall, these great greedy nations of monarchies or oligarchies where the common man has just had enough. The masses just can't take the abuse anymore. They can't take the corruption. They can't take the political violence, or whatever phrase you want to put. They just can't take it anymore. They're sick of it. They're tired of it. And then they realize, wait a minute, there's more of us than there are of them. Catching on yet? Hope you are, for all our sakes. Two of them stuck out to me pretty apparent, and that is the French Revolution and, of course, the fall of the Romanov family in Russia. Now, why did these two stick out to me? I'm going to touch on China, but in a moment. The French Revolution was violent. The Romanov ending was violent, but they came through with very different methods to structure their society, both far left-leaning, socialists, wanting to do good on behalf of everyone. That's great. Russia took it a bit further. The first truly communistic, Marxist communistic, they tried as much as they could, but they eventually adopted capitalism because, the whole thing with the space race and, the Cold War, and they're like, man, we need to get some more money. And so like, oh, let's invite in capitalism. And then once they started inviting capitalism, like, holy crap, there's a lot of money, but it didn't matter. None of the money that was coming in towards the government was actually going to pay off old debts. It was going into the pockets of political officials and the oligarchy. So it's really, truly no wonder why the Soviet Union fell. Surprise. But the thing that I noticed was this sense of unity, the unity of the masses. And that's what made me love France so much. It's like, man, it's like they're collective. Like they're doing this particular political strategy on behalf of the nationalistic identity of the French people. They knew where their problem was. It wasn't with the immigrants. It wasn't with the little things that they make us bicker over. It was solely against the powerful and the corrupt, the greedy, the ones that absorbed every ounce of wealth from their nation and continued to ask for more. Russia, same style, much different outcome. Eventually that fell. But where else have we seen something like that take hold? China. And actually for something like China, it makes perfect sense. See, China is built up of multiple different ethnic backgrounds. The Han is the primary dominant ethnical racial Chinese group. I'm horrible with, remember, this is just a conversation. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, so I'm trying to use whatever words I have to make sense the best that I can. Don't take any of this as verbatim. If you think any of this is interesting yourself, just tip your toes into the rabbit hole. Just enlighten yourself for a moment. Suspend your disbelief of reality and just like, maybe this one is interesting. Maybe I should look into it. So China, the thing I loved about it is I came over to Zhaohongshu. Red note for some of you plebs. I came over to Zhaohongshu and my mind was opened. Remember, I was someone that loved everything and believed most things. The JFK thing, that was the one conspiracy theory that I was like, that's not adding up, and it still doesn't. It makes more sense now that I've connected some dots. But I came over to Zhaohongshu because of the whole TikTok ban. I'm not a fan of the government going against the wishes and nature of our Constitution. Joining the military, swearing an oath to the Constitution, like I took that very seriously because these things matter very importantly to me. And because they matter to me, I have to advocate that for other people. Just because I disagree with what you say, we both still have the right to say these things. If someone else says something I disagree with, sure, I can have my own take, my own opinion, and that creates dialogue. But I've noticed that there are certain people, institutions, organizations, nations that we are heavily encouraged to not say anything negative about. And a lot of people have quote unquote sold their souls for a slice of the pie, because and they'll do it. They'll amp up and like, oh no, this organization, nation, etc. They're great. They're wonderful. They're not doing anything wrong. All because they got a check in the mail. And it's like, that's good for you, man. Look, I'm in the same boat as a lot of us, man. Could I use some extra money? Absolutely. But not at the cost of my integrity and my soul. I care about the freedoms of speech far too much to allow something like that to happen. Also, they haven't reached out to me, so I haven't given them an opportunity to tell them to go themselves. A year ago, I would have been very susceptible to being able to, say yes to something like that. You look at the writing on the wall, you look at the direction of our economy, and you're like, man, I could use some extra bones. And the problem is you become dependent on it, because that extra money goes away so quickly. And most people wouldn't even put that money towards their actual needs or paying off debt. No, it goes straight into the wants and the desires of now. Where is this going? This is my solution. This is how I've become more at peace in my life. This is by acknowledging the deception, understanding that the narrative is false, and regardless of who's in power that we see anywhere in the world, everything goes according to the plans far above and beyond our own understanding. No, I'm not referencing God. He's way higher up. Whoo! And that's an interesting thing too, because at the beginning of the year, I was doing some live streams and I had my own take on God, and it was like a take that I had had for a while, and it was very different from the take I have now, because you go far enough down these rabbit holes and the only solution is God. But that's another topic for another time. I'm not a preacher. I'm not going to shove that down your guys' throats. We're all people here, so I'm going to meet you where you're at and level with you. We're screwed, but that's okay. No. Don't freak, don't fret, don't worry. Everything's going to be fine. Maybe. Oh, Mace, where you going? I don't even know where I'm going. Yeah, I do. Here's what I'm saying. I realize that a lot of the things that we see in the world doesn't add up. And I've realized that no matter who's in charge, our own collective, as citizens of this country, our truer needs are not met, because a lot of these advantages that should go to us go to the establishment, go to corporations, they go to the parasitic elite. When's the middle class going to finally get back on track? When are the people below middle class going to be given a fair opportunity? When are our schools going to actually educate kids, as opposed to just indoctrinating them to be to follow a particular narrative, just be worker bees? We need to teach actual critical thinking. We need to teach kids to question authority, not to say to ignore them, but come on, you got to look at the world and be like, wait a minute, let me make sure that this is right, because the government loves uninformed people. They love it more than anything else. If they can get uninformed people, they can shove any kind of narrative they want down their throat, because if that's the only truth that they see from this authority, they're of course going to take it. And if they don't have critical thinking skills, they're just going to ignore it all. And then when the institutions and the powers that be say, hey, the reason why your situation is bad, the reason why your life is bad is because of X, Y, Z, these things that are outside of your own biases and demographics, these other things that are opposite of what you are and what you represent, those are the things that are causing strife in your life. Not us taking your tax dollars and then siphoning it around back to our pockets and the pockets of our buddies so that we can get back and be reelected, not to mention all of the money that we cycle and siphon through APAC that kind of perpetuates the very same cycle. When you notice these things, when you realize these things, and then you acknowledge it's all BS, it's all a deception, it's all a lie, it's all a well-crafted narrative to encourage fear and incentivize subjugation of the masses through panic, fear, depression, loneliness, etc. A lot of these things that we're seeing wrong, specifically in America, let's say, these are all systemic problems. They're systemic from the sense that it's the powers that be that are fucking with us. It's the powers that be that are doing what they want to do for their own selfish gain. It all comes down to lust and greed. Lust for the immediate satisfaction of worldly desires, and the greed to constantly want more. Because once you get a little, it's never enough. And you got to get more and more and more. So that's kind of how I've been more at peace. At peace, he says, as he wears his tinfoil hat and raves at the cell phone screen, and he's going to upload it to YouTube, where, if anything, because of the dead internet theory, it's mainly just going to be bots that he interacts with. So we live in an illusionary world. Remember, don't get hung up on the language. This is me being poetic. Everything around you is a lie. That doesn't mean that we live in the actual physical matrix, but the poetic element of the matrix, that is true. Because everything that we're around is a construct of a narrative that's based upon the twisting of the truth to fit particular biases. Biases, whatever, you know what I mean. So I have come to the conclusion that there are essentially two truths in the world. There's the absolute truth, the one that trumps all truths, the truth before we're here and the truth after we're gone. The truth that comes with us through life, through our ups, through our downs, and will eventually meet us when we close our eyes for good and take our last breath. And then there's the obvious truth that we can see every moment of every day, our sensory truth, our observations of the world around us. Both of these absolutes can be misguided. They can be taken and shaken in such a way to where we don't even know what to believe, and mainly because we're following suit, listening to the powers that be tell us how things run, tell us how things go. We're all looking at the same thing. We've developed systems to understand those things that we're looking at, the things that we're observing. It's all based on a narrative. We agree on the mathematics and the physics, but the narrative of how the mathematics are applied, that's where it gets real dicey. That's the part where it becomes to a point where it's like, wait, what? Are you sure? Like, is that how this works? And then you have this great divide of people arguing back and forth with one another. And we end up getting nowhere because at the end of the day, everyone just wants their own bias. Instead of just throwing caution to the wind, taking a breath, and enjoying the entertainment for what it is in the moment and see if anything resonates within you. And to just look at a different perspective, to look at something outside of what you think and know to be true, when the only truth is I do not know. I only know what I do not know. And that's a lot. So, stop sucking up the mainstream narrative all the time. Do your own research and critical thinking, connecting dots to actually make sense of anything that you do decide to go in and look into. And what do I mean by that is like, yeah, even with the weird wacko conspiracy theories, when I say go down the rabbit hole, don't just listen to fucking talking heads, man. You gotta pull up old ass fucking maps like this one and start zooming in and making sense of it yourself. That's what I mean. You gotta do the research. And no, not just a simple Google search. You gotta go to like old ass archaeological institutions. You gotta look at parts of the internet that are beyond just the mere surface level. You gotta connect the dots. If you wanna look into something medical you have some weird questions about, fuck it, look into that shit. The internet's a wonderful place. We can see more than just tits and cat videos on here. The internet's a wonderful thing, but too many people use it as a source of entertainment as opposed to like a fountain of knowledge. Yes, a lot of people do indeed do that, and the advent of AI has actually made that even more helpful to our detriment because it's also made us incredibly lazy. I digress, perhaps a topic for another time. Stop buying the BS narrative that we're given. Question everything and kind of come up to your own conclusions. I have to sit here and acknowledge something. It's very dangerous to say all the things that I'm saying. And this is why. Because a lot of these connecting points, because of people's intrinsic biases, they can latch on to it. This is where the lack of critical thinking comes. This is less about discovering truth, because to discover actual truth, you have to open up yourself to have your own bias like toppled. You have to come to the understanding that the things that you believe to be true are bullshit. If you only go down these rabbit holes hoping to confirm your own bias, you're gonna go nowhere and you're gonna turn into like some fucking QAnon shit. Okay, once again, that's another topic for what it is, but These things are dangerous when you solely do it to elevate your own mindset. You got to remember, if everything that we've been taught is a false narrative to, help fund the continuing plans of these secret societies and the parasitic elite, then you have to also give up all of the crap that you've known. Prime example, me, like the Israel-Gaza thing. I was for a long time a very staunch, loud supporter for Israel, but it wasn't based on any actual information. It was solely based upon my perception of it all, right? Because of 9/11, because of this, because of that, and all of these things were back to things that I was told, but we didn't learn in school. So I learned at 34, 35 years old. I finally looked into this shit with a critical eye and was horrified. And yeah, obviously I changed my stance on that whole thing. And a big helper of that was going to Xiaohongshu and seeing China and seeing man, they're so much like us. Yeah, they're different. They have their own culture, blah, 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 but they're very much like us. Like, they have the same wants, needs, and desires as anyone else in the world. They want to be happy. They want to be successful. They want to have, like, good experiences in life. They're afraid of bad things happening. These are all, but what was the one difference was that they're collective as a society. Whereas in America, and because of the huge push of capitalism, we are so woefully materialistic and individualistic and consumeristic and istic, you name it. Me. And it's like exhausting. And I'm not saying for the outside world, internally for me, it's like, ugh. It makes you feel hollow. It makes you feel empty. It makes you realize at a certain point that there's so much more in life than the newest iPhone. He says as he records from a Z Fold 7, I love this phone. This thing is amazing, but you know, we're all hypocrites. I guess me too to some degree. But at least I, can acknowledge my failings. Because I'm a damn dirty sinner like the rest of us. Once again, just terminology, run with it. And then I guess like the last ticker, the one that kind of solidifies everything, of how can you ignore everything but be okay at the same time? The example that I will give to try to alliterate what I'm saying. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Render unto God what is God's. Focus on this. What does it mean to render unto Caesar? We live in Caesar's world. We live in Rome. We are inhabiting these bodies, and this is where we spawned, and this is our lot and ticket in life. And let's be real, it's not like I can just get up and leave. And I love my country. I'm just not the biggest fan of how my government runs it. Because, yeah, there is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. And I do think that the Reds are making a valiant attempt to kind of correct a lot of the wrongs. With an asterisk, the way they're going about it is kind of dog shit, but I understand and appreciate the effort and direction. Prime example, let's look at the economy. Yeah, the tariffs are fucking stupid, man. I mean, I'm kind of always been a part of like the idea of the whole free market thing, right? I think that it helps push innovation. I hate monopolies. I like diversification within the market. These things are all great. And it would be awesome to have those things back in America. So do I understand the nature on so many different weird levels of the tariffs? And this particular one I'm focusing on is jobs coming to America from that particular lens. Yeah, these things I'm super into and I can agree with. The notion. But then when you take the idea and then you put it in practice and you kind of see the actual response, it's more of a weirdo leveraging thing than it is actually about bringing actual jobs back to America. Because let's face fact, we need the infrastructure for a lot of these jobs, which I guess is to mass produce a bunch of bullshit, or to mass produce a bunch of electronic parts, which those factories will most likely be with machines anyway. It's like when you sit and you think of how it's going to act in practice, like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Huh? This doesn't make any sense. I'm confused. You're confused. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Something about robots in the economy. It's all going to shit. And then it's like, okay, so first you need the infrastructure to even have the jobs here to begin with. Then you need people that are educated and trained to be able to do these roles. And not a lot of them in America because we de-incentivized it decades ago. So instead of making the next engineers in America, we had an entire generation of beta men, in gender studies. Okay. Hey, learn whatever you want to learn, but we also live in Rome. We live in reality. Do you honestly think that that's going to get you somewhere? And you thought it did. A lot of us did. Why? Because that's what the government told us. That's what our own biases was leading us towards. So that's what we went for. And then now that we're big grown-ups and we're like, oh, fuck. What am I going to do with this dog shit degree that I can't even get a worthwhile job for and I'm paying all this fucking money for? Not saying that that's everyone's situation. Obviously it's not, but there's a large chunk of people where that is the case, where they feel like they've been duped, but because of their own biases and they don't want to kind of go against the grain of the particular narrative that they themselves want to push out into the world, they kind of live in this abstract denial, but still acknowledging the their victim mentality, whatever. It sucks. It sucks. You know, it's like, and that happened to a lot of us. A lot of us got duped with college because college is good. It is good. But why are they pushing out degrees that no rational corporation, organization, etc., whatever, will reasonably take? I think philosophy is great. I do think it's great to talk about these things and these concepts. But when you get someone that gets like a philosophy degree, what does that go to? Are you just going to teach? Are you going to work in a library? Like, I don't get it. This is no shade. Put your comments. Prove to me that there is no dead internet. I'm curious about what the fuck does someone do with a psychology degree? Become a motivational speaker? I just don't fucking get, like, a lot of these weird degrees. What? Once again, we live in Rome. Give unto Caesar. Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. Shit. Okay, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. We live in America. One under this government structure. Sure, we may not like it. That is our right to vocalize. But too many people fall in the trap of allowing their emotions to come on top of their anger and to push out some of the most hateful things that then makes them hypocrites. And then they get in trouble for a lot of these outlandish things that they say. The government doesn't care if we say yes, no, up, down, agree with you, disagree with you, because that whole system is way beyond anything that we as a collective can truly fathom. It's designed to be difficult to understand intentionally. We're all being had. Every single one of us. Remember that. But like I said, we live in Rome, render unto Caesar. We follow these laws. We try to maintain a semblance of a good society. We try to be good to one another. That's the whole point of this. It's like, yeah, sure, there might be elements of here that suck, but the elements of here that are wonderful, the yous and the yous and the yous and the me connecting, those things are wonderful. We should chase those, while at the same time understanding where we are in the world and adhering. Now, remember, everything I say has got a little star next to it. And we do want to implement real, lasting, beneficial change to all. That is a very good thing. And we could potentially get there. The way that we get there, well, that's a little dicey, because people have very different radical thought. And my radical thought is to just turn off the bullshit. Turn off the distractions. Turn off feeding into this system of just crazy negativity. Accept the world for what it is and try to live within it. And while you're living within it, don't be a dick. Try to be nice to other people. Let the little shit go. If someone else cuts you off while you're driving, love your enemy, man. That dude sucks. We can objectively acknowledge that. But don't put that negative energy back out into the world. Accept that crappy moment for what it was, but do not let it have power over you. These little things that we do for ourselves echoes out back into the world, right? It's a whole do unto others as you want to be done to you. You know, really, if you actually think of that, holy crap, if all of us kind of operated that way, we would live in a much better society. There was 8 billion genies. The very last, the spoiler alert if you haven't read the comics, but you guys will probably watch the Netflix or the Amazon thing when it comes out. But 8 billion genies, the very last wish was, I wish for everyone to love the way they wish to be loved. Now, it's a story about genies, so the first thing I think is like, like the devil's paw thing, like careful what you wish for. Just because of the way that it's worded, following that track of logic could be like, you're offering some really dark shit right now, man. There's some fucked up people in the world. I understand the spirit of it. I wish people would be kind to each other. I wish people would give to the world the same thing they want to receive from the world. It seems like a very hard thing to do in mass, which is why it needs to be started with you. Started with the individual, Quit looking at, well, they're not doing it, so why should I? They're not adhering and living in that way, so why should I bother? For you, for your own sanity, for your own like new agey stuff, for your own positive vibrations in the universe. Remember, the terminology, do whatever you want with it. Take it, leave it, translate it to something better that you can understand. These are all just examples that I have from my own experiences in life. I'm not trying to push them onto you. Rather, I'm using them as a means of trying to convey these things that I'm seeing, we need to be good to each other. Ignore the constant negativity. Ignore the bait, the rage bait, to get us to react in a way that will let them further their agenda more towards us. Because that's what happens when we have these crazy, visceral, intense reactions. We give the powers that be the ammunition to be used against us. So why do that? Why? I mean, like I say, it sounds doom and gloom, but when you really lift the curtain, when you see life beyond the curtain, that's the moment. That's the moment that you realize it's not worth my energy, it's not worth my time, it's not worth the hatred. The only thing in this life worth anything is love. And that is love to the people I even disagree with. Because enough of that in the world. Because nothing pisses off someone that is already angry more than someone that is peaceful, accepting, and loving, and non-judgmental. Sure, we could have our own personal opinions, and we could talk with our spouses, these people that we connect with, our best friends. We could air out these grievances in a proper controlled setting, but not at and towards the other person at that moment. Because what does that invite? It invites conflict. It invites stress. It invites negativity, and it's a perpetuating cycle. Let it go. Let the guy cut you off. Let the guy cut you in line. Not saying that, you know what I mean. Don't feed into the bullshit. Don't feed in to the deception. Don't allow the narrative to propagate itself in a way that will allow the elite of the world to further take advantage of us. Now, I think I've been doing this for a while. I'm probably going to edit this into something kooky and fun to keep your guys' attention somewhere because, once again, look at this as like a talking head podcast type thing where I'm just kind of spitting off the rip. The moment that people give me some comments on like, hey, can you touch on this a little more? I'm kind of interested in that. I'll make more of these. This is the camera. I'm sorry. Got to call myself out before they do in the comments. Anyway, I'm your oh so glorious and beloved Mace Valor. I've been doing this for a while, and I'd rather go hang out with my kids. So, yeah, I haven't done these in a while. My mind has been elsewhere. Do appreciate the platform for what it is, to be an area for me to echo off into the void, and maybe someone will resonate. And I won't feel as alone, and neither will you. As always, I'm your oh so glorious and beloved Mace Valor. Signing off.